And then we'll also talk about supplier performance management. If I go back 20 years back, it used to be only here is a contract, ensure compliance, and close the contract. But now people are saying, guys, we need to do supplier performance management. With whom I have placed a contract, are they doing a good job, bad job? Should I do the renewal of contract with that or not? So that's supplier performance contract management we'll talk about. And at the end of the day, we do the contract closure. Now, let me walk through these terms first. Smart. Now, smart word means it came up around since we came with a lot of automations in contract management, use of software, use of this, a lot of use of computer protocol. Otherwise, in the good old days, I had to draft a contract. Then when a new contract come, I look around the old templates, try to find which one is closer to my existing contract. But now there are computer protocols. I can find how I drafted earlier. I can even keep a track of the whole contract around. So this way basically helps me to reduce the time, effort, paper used to create, manage, and monitor. This is why we call the word smart. So in short, this is all about smart contract. Now the contract management, now question comes, here the difference is between the contract and administration and management. And I will be very happy if somebody has any concern, please do come back to me either through the questions. Okay, looks there are some disturbances. Now contract administration and management. Now contract administration is, if you look around any contracting cycle, there's a pre-award, award, post-award. So pre-award is the one when you're trying to do the sourcing, trying to finalize supplier, then you make an award of the contract. So anything which is post-award is more like contract administration. But contract management encompasses from beginning to end. You are not coming into contract management role only after the contract has been signed, because then you can't do really much. If I'm working in a contract management function and you say, guys, okay, I've signed the contract, now you manage it. Technically, I have limitations. But if I'm involved from beginning to end, I can help in drafting contract. I can help in taking care of risk upfront. So I'm basically involved in the upfront side, not only the lower ends. So contract administration is an activity which covers all the activity after the award of contract, while contract management covers end to end. So this is the major difference I would like to say around. And to me, the word administration looks like a bureaucratic word. Okay, you're just taking care of compliance. So, and many organizations, wherever I say, guys, don't call administration, change the term to management. It sounds better, looks better. Well, with this, friend, let me move to the next one. Now, managing a contract, I think I've already explained the definition. I don't think I need to repeat it since the time is limited. Now, look at the contract cycle. This is where I was talking around the contract management versus contract administration. So management is covering from the very beginning stage at the planning, and then also even at the level of preparations, evaluation, award, and then management part, yes. But you are overseeing all. You are looking after the management in that cycle, but you are overseeing all activities around. That's what it covers. So in short, I would say it starts from initiation, negotiation stage you are also involved, approval stage you are also involved, and then management part. So in short, keep in mind contract management covers the whole chain, while it would have been a contract administration is only one part of it. Now question comes, why should I do contract management? Now contract management, so is very first one is rapid contract creations. Obviously, if I'm going for the smart ones, it accelerates the process cycle of authoring the contract. Otherwise, you must have seen, I'm sure in your organization, you draft something, goes to legal office, they'll say put should here, put shall here, put will here. I mean, it goes back and forth and takes ages to clear one contract. And then If it is already done somewhere, it's already in the system, approval process is easier. So it's a rapid creations, increase visibility, reduce risk, track the deadlines, and mitigation risk. Decreased errors. When there are standard template, track changes in contract, exceptions, chances of errors are mitigated totally. Improve the supplier performance. You have SLAs. You're saying, guys, these are my standard for service level agreements, and I want this to comply with this. And your system takes care of complying. They take care of tracking it. They take care of measuring it. So this is what system should work on it. Now, improved bottom line at the end, when you're doing all these good things around, cycle time is reduced, it improves your spend and helps you in compliance also. Because you put down the milestone up front, and when you're walking through it, you are ensuring it is compliant. So that's a beautiful thing about the whole Y contract management. Now, effective contract management. So here also I think I've covered already in my thing, so I can just skip over. You'll find I've got much more slides. You can look at your own ways, but I'll cover the key points, what we have because of time limitation. Now the contract managements, now key elements. The very first thing is you have to make a plan. I mean, any activities, if you have to manage it, there has to be contract administration plan. Then contract over correspondence, communications, what type of there has to be control over that. Risk management, how do I do the risk management? Pre-performance conference, monitoring and ensuring progress, change management. You want to amend the contracts, which happens very often with big projects, which are running over 6 months, 1 year, raw material has gone up, labor cost has gone up. So there has to be a change of those things. Disputes it could happen particularly for the long, which are not fixed value contracts. There could happen disputes, there could happen conflicts. How do we resolve it? Inspection, acceptance, and the last is contract closeout. Now, developing a contract administration plan when you're talking around is a complex thing. You need to spell out your terms and conditions. I know sometimes all of us have boilerplates, we use them. Identify supplier action. What exactly the supplier is going to do? What are the deliverables? And what is the customer side? So as a customer, what you are going to provide, you need to spell out both sides, the roles and responsibility. Identify contract milestone. What are the key milestones? You can't just say closure of the contract. Again, I'm not talking a small value contract, I'm talking a big values contract. There are milestones. The payments are linked with those. Identify reports and due dates, when the due dates are there. Customer interface, when are you going to deal with the customers? And coordinate with program managers for internal efforts, assign responsibility, develop a contract schedule around. So this is where it goes on. Now the files should cover all your documentation which I'm putting up here. Your contract file should have supporting schedules, requested, approved change. All this documentation must be there. Next issue comes up in the contract management, risk. You need to define your risk. I mean, the risk could be, if I take up the next slides on this, the risk could be in the financial risk. You might have placed an order in the foreign currency in dollars. So dollar may go up and down. If it goes in your favor, great. Otherwise, a risk. And the second is scope of schedule risk. The whole thing is getting delayed. The item which was supposed to come, the consultant which was supposed to come, have not arrived. Organization risk are there. Terms and conditions risk are there. You have taken up the terms and conditions, and then somebody sues you for some reason. There are environment issues, other issues. So the whole thing get delayed. Human behaviors. People have gone on strike. With whom you have contracted, the company is having a problem around. So those type of risks are potentials to happen around. It could be environmental risk also. In the country from where you are importing might have come under flood or tsunami or something, your goods can't reach. So those are the potential risks around. So here is a long one's list about how to do the contract schedule. Basically, scheduling is the one I put down all the activities around. So from very beginning to end, it gives you how do I schedule it. You need to make a Gantt chart and all those things of the bar charts, which I'm sure many of you must be doing it, and then trying to control things are going, which are the places, which are the critical path, which is the one you can't compromise, which are the activity you have a float period. So this is what we do. Comes the measuring performance part. Now the performance part, obviously you could do it integrated approach. You're looking at the performance from the time side. This is the performance of the suppliers. Now, I'm not getting into the word vendors, suppliers. I know there's a big definitions, terminology. Maybe in some other webinars we could clarify what is webinar, what is vendor, and what is supplier. Here I'm talking about supplier performance part, integrated approach. Specific issues relate to time, cost, and quality. The issues is time. You were supposed to finish something, didn't happen, and that milestone delayed mean the whole thing could happen. There's no float period in that era, and it's possibly falling on the critical path. So you need to have measuring the performance on the time side. Cost side, the guy was supposed to give you X price, and then you find because of delay, because of some other reasons, beyond your control, the cost has also gone up. And lastly, to cut the corners, the guy has compromised on the quality part. So this is where you want to check around. So you are looking around, and there's another component which I have not put up here. Is about after sales. That's again after the sales service. And there's another one, performance indicator, the documentation. Sometimes suppliers, you ask for some documentation, they give you half information. You're struggling with that. You're going back and forth. Back and forth means your time, your cost. So that also could be for measuring the performance indicator. Now, so the solutions or the tools which you're looking around should be able to answer all this, should be able to track your performance of the suppliers. Now, this is where we looked around. I think I've already touched to some extent, so I can just skip this one. Now, contract reviews around. So you're done the supplier performance. You're done about the risk part. Now you're trying to say, I've done the scheduling part. Now I'm trying to look at the contract reviews. For each problem that occurs, you're trying to find out what went wrong. What was the impact on the contract? You have to keep in mind, this could have gone wrong, maybe the fault of either the vendor or could be yours. Sometimes what happens in a hurry, we write down the specifications very lightly. We don't make it very clear. Vendor wants to get a business, they get the business. But when they start working on it, then we get a second thought, the spec should have been like this. So that when went wrong could affect the delay, cost. So both things are there around. What was the impact on the contract? Why did it go wrong? Could the same problem occur again? So that's what you have to learn the lesson from that. How serious would it be? How could the problem be prevented around? So this is where the need to do the reviews part. How do I mitigate this? Now, issues to be discussed in the contract reviews. Was it delivered in accordance with the schedule? So you need to have a checklist for all this. So I'm expecting in the solutions and the tools, they should answer all this. So when I've got hundreds of milestones around, hundreds of activities around, hundreds of deliverables around, I should spell out those deliverables. Then I should say, are they moving as per my schedule or not? Imagine some contracts complex, you can't do it manually. You can't do with spreadsheets. Somebody has to give you a wonderful tool to answer this. What were the causes of any delays? Budget overruns. How appropriate were the procedures and control in place? What is the supplier overall performance? At the end of the day, I must be able to find the performance rating. So that will be the wonderful tool. If somebody can give me the performance rating based on 3 or 4 elements, the one I have seen in the industries, the one which are used as I told, price, quality, time in delivery. 4th is the documentations. So this is where we look around, and the 5th we also look around sometime after sales service. So we score them. We could score them from the ranking of 1 to 5, 1 to 10, then come up with an answer. Oh, this supplier has scored around 60%. This supplier has scored 70%. And you have a benchmark. Anything below that, you'll say, guys, these suppliers, I must find a new supplier now. I must find a substitute for this. So that's the advantage of developing the overall performance part. So this rating should come from the system as well. Now coming to the forming the contract management team, this is also important around when you're making the contract management team. You must have seen some people are totally with a legal mind. They treat the supplier with an arm's length. They'll just go dot by dot. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're supposed to do. And they behave more from the legal context around because their grooming has been done as a lawyer. But then there are other people who try to build the suppliers. There could be mistake from your end. So they work as a cooperative relationship. So in the contract management team, you could have both type of people. One who are purely on legalistic way, go with the dot by dot. Other are cooperative relationship. Try to build the relationship. So they're good people managers around and try to get the job done. Now managing the relationship as to you, one arm's length contract against cooperative relation. But in many places I've seen around, depending on the complexity, depending on the size, we have both type of people. One looks totally in a very legalistic way. Other try to keep a good humor, try to get job done in a perfect way. Now then could come the dispute part, and this could happen disagreements between the supplier and the vendors. So this is where we try to do the contract disputes are bound to happen, sometime changes. Then we try to resolve them, and these could be the claims of unforeseen cause, disputes over contract clauses, breach of contract. So these are there around. Now here contract termination, at the end of the day when we see, guys, I'm not moving well, I may like to terminate sometime. Now contract closeout, before we do it, I think I must include some of the lessons what I've learned. So before I do this, I think we must document the lessons learned. If you're not documenting the lesson learned, I'm today working with the company, I know it's all in my head, but tomorrow I leave the job. Somebody else comes over my areas around. They will not be able to retrieve the experience or the lessons from the past. So we must document it. And that's how it goes on. And with this ones, I want to thank you all for the patient hearing. So we look forward later on, I think after Harsh has covered his presentation, your question answers, please keep your questions and we'll be very happy to answer in the last 15-20 minutes for the question answer. Well, friends, thanks again, everyone. And thanks to the organizers, Conference Asia, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Batra. This is Harsh here. Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me out? Am I audible? Great. So what I will do is, I'm going to talk about the solution capabilities. So Mr. Batra talked about that within contract management process, how one should look for driving visibility, improving your productivity or reducing your contract cycle time, reducing your risk. The risk, different kind of risk. It could be your financial risk, or it could be your, let's say, terms and conditions or SLAs that you signed with the vendors, and also looking at in terms of learnings, right? So what went wrong with the contracts, how we can improve next time, and also reviewing all those obligations which have been documented and the performance on that. So what we do is, with respect to this, we will look at how contract management solution can help you define visibility controls both for pre-signature process and post-signature, which is what Mr. Batra was referring to, contract administration. Right? So before we get started, so I just want to highlight. So one is that the type of contracts we do. So one is the contracts with your customers, so the sales contracts. So if you look at with respect to the sales contracts and the typical challenge that we hear from our customers, one is with respect to how a contract management solution can help you accelerate time to closure. No? So that has a direct impact on your the working capital for the organization, and also in terms of defining your right controls on the contract language, having the right boiler templates, so that you are able to mitigate your risk and ensure always the contract with the right language goes out to your customers, right? So saying that, if I just move to, and if you look at here in terms of some of the benefits that you can see from the implementation of this application. So one is in terms of the reduction in time taken to review contracts, and this is because of all the automation on your workflows, and all the defined controls with respect to increase in compliance. And this is where people have a very good control, right? Maybe even if you don't have solution in place, and when you are negotiating your contracts, you know what's the level of risk you are taking. But post signature, how you proactively manage that risk with respect to any deviations you have taken from the corporate policies. It could be respect to your payment terms, or it could be respect to your SLAs. So how do you measure that compliance post signature? And the last piece is respect to in terms of reducing your administration cost by effective contract management practices. So we will talk about that in the time being. I just saw some message that maybe some people not able to hear me. Just want to check, is it because I am speaking at the high volume, so is it audible to most of the participants? Okay, great. From here, let's move to your the next slide, and so now talk about the buy-side contracts. And so if you look at with respect to the buy-side contracts, the typical challenges what we see is respect to your maybe people missing on renewals. So no visibility in terms of what contracts are expiring at what point of time, and you have to plan for your renegotiations. In terms of ensuring that what are the discounts and prices that you have negotiated, are we realizing on that? What's my contract performance on that? Right? And also ensuring that all your payments are in line with whatever has been signed in the contract. And this becomes very critical, especially if you're talking of your contracts where you define your maybe penalties and bonuses which are linked to your performance. So how do you measure that in terms of if the supplier has defaulted on the SLAs, have those penalties been incorporated into the invoices, right? So if you look at in terms of the benefits, and these are the benefits which we have seen across the customer base. I would say we have more than 150 plus customers who are using our solutions to manage their buy-side contract and the sales-side contract. So one is in terms of respect to the erroneous payments. So there is a reduction at 75 to 90%, and also ensuring that contracts are renewed in time and you are able to realize your negotiated terms and conditions which are negotiated in the contract. With this, moving to a next slide, and what are we going to do here is we will take a look at the contract life cycle, and what we'll do is we'll talk about these four themes. So we will talk about driving visibility. We'll talk about in terms of how do you drive consistency and the business controls into the contracting drafting process and at the time of negotiations, having the right level of controls and approvals before this goes to your business partners. And post signatures, how do you measure those obligations, which could be your milestones or performance reviews on the contract? So what we'll do is in the next couple of slides, we'll take a look at what are the challenges and what are the capabilities required to address those challenges. So going to the next slide. So here, if you look at with respect to visibility, and this is what we have seen, that today many of the organizations, so what they're doing is that all this the contracting process before it goes into your ERP, it's manual, right? And what happens is that you are spending a lot of time in negotiating your contracts in terms of maybe defining the service levels, in terms of defining those complex payment discounts. And what happens here is that once these contracts are signed, right, and then you lose that visibility, right, in terms of if I had signed my service contracts with a contractor, and I'm supposed to do my review at the different sites on a quarterly basis, am I doing that? And then matching it back to what SLAs were signed. Also looking in terms of if you look at today, if I talk about, let's say, a banking industry, or if I talk about a pharma industry, and the regulations are getting strong and strong day by day. It has been there in North America, European country for a long time, but if you look at in our country also, the regulations are kind of becoming more stringent as of date. So in case you're taking any deviations, right, maybe if you're taking a deviation on the clauses which may be linked to your, let's say, indemnification, or let's say respect to your intellectual property, what's the risk that has been taken, and how to measure that risk once the contracts have been signed. So if you look at, so in order to address these challenges, so the very first important thing is to have your visibility of all the contracts that you have signed as of today, and how you can get your contracts into a, let's say, a contract management tool, which is not just a language, but where you can search your contracts by your different terms and conditions, right? Which the terms could be respect to maybe what are the different payment terms, right? Or what are the SLAs I've signed on the contracts? What are my penalties? What are my bonuses I've signed on this contract? And then also able to define your obligations, around those contracts. Because what is more important is that once you're able to make your contract visible and you understand what's the level of risk taken at the time of signature, now you want to track those risks over the life cycle of a contract, right? You want to track your obligations. The obligations which would be respect to doing your. There could be. Let me take an interesting example here. Sometimes you sign a contract and it's a 2-year contract. In the 2-year contract, you have clauses that you have to do a price review every 6 months. Right? So now, if there is a no trigger and no system in place, that sends a reminder to the owner of this activity, you miss on this obligation, right? So you have spent so much of time, and so you have spent so much of time in terms of negotiating that, but are we really able to measure that? Right? So with respect to your the capabilities, so one is in terms of how to get your contracts which are already signed into the application, and then ability to do your searching, reporting around that, and also able to define your obligations around that. So now let's move to your consistency and control. Right? So this is where I just go back to what Mr. Batra had mentioned about your the legal boilerplates, right? So we spend a lot of time in terms of negotiating the contract. So how we can bring your repeatability into the process, right? So in terms of ensuring that you have your contract templates by the category, because if you're buying, let's say, material, the contract template could be very different from the contract template that you will have for services. So within this contract templates, defining all the clauses, also defining your delegation of authority, right? In terms of if, let's say, if someone within organization is modifying a clause on, let's say, your indemnification, or let's say on your payment terms, so who has to approve those exceptions? And the idea here is, it is directly linked to your productivity. See, today, to take an example, that we have worked with some customers, where the legal was becoming a bottleneck, right? And the reason for that is they have to review each and every contract, and sign off, that this is in line with the corporate policies. So once you have your, let's say, tools in place, right, you have defined the right contract templates, right, pre-approved templates. You had defined your delegation of control and authorities, who can modify those clauses. So in that case, if something that is pre-approved, everything doesn't need to go to legal, right? It's only what we call as management by exception, and that's something it really helps you in cutting down your cycle time for the contract management. The other important thing is, as you talk to or as you negotiate with the suppliers in different countries, sometimes what happens is there are clauses, which may work well for the Indian market, but it may not work well for, let's say, your European Union or maybe for North America. So having a library of those alternates, from your experience, right, in terms of, okay, this is the clause that works for, let's say, your jurisdiction in the European Union. So that itself can bring your repeatability and the learnings from your past contracts. The other important thing in terms of defining your controls is once your contracts are signed, right? And I'm talking of contracts, which are running into multiple years and undergo amendments, right? So how do you know? There's a big challenge, right? In terms of if you have 4 amendments of the contract, so what are the terms and conditions which have changed? You keep on comparing different versions and then try to see that this is what my prevailing terms and conditions at that point of time. So now how with one click, you can get that, what is my prevailing terms and conditions on this contract as of date, and then measuring the performance and compliance on that. The last important point on this controls with respect to your approvals. So ability to define your standard corporate policies. To give an example that my corporate policy says that my payment term should be let's say 60 days, right? Now someone is negotiating it for 30 days, right? What's the reason for that? These kind of things, where systems can intelligently trigger additional level of controls to ensure that there is a deviation which is taking place, and you document that, maybe whatever the reason, it's a single source supplier, right? And whatever the reason, you document, it's there for the audits, and then you drive all those kind of controls into your contracting tool. Now let's move to the next slide with respect to your tracking reporting. So once your contracts are signed, now the next thing is that how do you measure your contract over the life cycle? So something as simple as I would say is that talking to different customers, we realize that people because of no visibility, they also miss out on renewals. So that's I would say the most simple obligation. Maybe if you are investing in a contract management tool, it should bring that so that you have 100% compliance to your renewals. But to take the discussion further, what is more important here is, in terms of reducing your risk in the life cycle of a contract. Right? So you have signed your SLAs with the customers. You have signed, let's say, your different milestones with the customers, and you may have your different price formulas. Maybe if you're buying a commodity, and which happens typically in a metal and mining industry, right? And if you're buying, let's say, let's example of if you are buying a packaging material, right? The packaging material, it is a large amount of spend for you, and that packaging, you have your polymers, and the polymers price is linked to the crude movements in the market. So now having those kind of pricing formulas and ensuring that whenever those changes are happening, your contract price revision happens and it flows down to your ERP system, so that you are making the right payments and you are having the right controls in terms of what you have negotiated, right? And also just going back to the point Mr. Batra made, that depending upon the complexity of tracks and complexity of contracts, and maybe I'm taking an example, let's say from a BPO industry, right? So if you look at the contracts which are multi-year contracts, and one contract can have, I would say, hundreds of obligations, and these obligations would have to be measured on a monthly basis. It could be on a weekly basis or a quarterly basis, and depending and if you miss an obligation, it has an impact on your customer satisfaction. It has a financial impact, right? So now ensuring in terms of that you have your right level of controls to measure all kind of obligations, whether any legal obligations or your financial obligations or your HR obligations, and if there is a deviation or the miss happen, right? Setting the right level of triggers for your setting the right level of triggers so that the right actions are taken by the stakeholders. Right? That's where I would say the obligation management or the post signature part becomes very critical. And if you look at one of the key problem, let me take example from the procurement contract today is, so today most of the procurement people, right, so what they struggle with is the post signature part, where they lack those reporting tools, which can show them that maybe if you're buying a material and you have those complex volume discounts, in terms of having a 360-degree view of contract with respect to maybe how much of quantity we have bought across my business units, maybe how much of discounts I have been able to realize. So I think that's where that information is missing today, right? Take example of your service contracts. You have signed on your SLAs. Now this SLAs could be let's say your parameters respect to your timely completion of your contracts. Maybe the quality, your in terms of the quality of work performed by the vendors. And you may sign that I'm going to do this reviews every month, but are you really able to do that? Are you able to kind of get a consolidated view that how this vendor is providing me services at different site, and then rolling it up to your, let's say, region level, and using this vendor performance next time when you renegotiate a contract, right? So these are the kind of benefits where effective contract management tool can help you driving compliance across your contract lifecycle. So with this, I'll move to next slide, and what I want to show here is that if you look at a contract management is again a journey, right? So what you can do is one can start with something I would say simple. Start with driving visibility, where you have your repository of all your contracts. You are able to see your obligations. You are able to search your contracts by different parameters, and then you start increasing the maturity, in terms of defining your the legal border templates, defining your terms and conditions by your categories, initiating your processes, initiating your processes from the templates, and driving standardization. From there, the next level one can move to in terms of driving your exceptional workflows, driving your automated workflows, internal collaboration to draft the contracts, and getting all digital approvals. And once you're able to mature on, let's say, a pre-signature, then you can move to your contract monitoring, which is more to do with measuring of obligations, or let's say your contract performance reporting. One point I would like to highlight here is, so this is where it shows different steps, but as we have seen, each customer is different, right? And each industry has its own nuances, right? So depending upon that, maybe if in your industry, maybe your contracts are so complex, and the pain for you is not in the pre-signature but more in the contract administration. So in those cases, maybe the customer also start with visibility and compliance, right? But maybe if you are into an industry where you're doing a lot of exports, and the bigger challenge for you is not your post signatures, but ensuring that when you're doing business with your business partners in other countries, you have your right level of regulatory and operational control, right? So I would say it depends in terms of what is your business pain with respect to your contract life cycle, and then phase it out instead of doing it a big bang, right? Because every time you implement a technology, there is a change, right? And I think we should make that change incremental so that we are able to drive adoption across the organization. And so now moving to next two slides. So I'm not going to spend much time here, and this slide is more on let's say a global manufacturing company, and so they had similar challenges with respect to your visibility, driving your right level of contract control, so the right contract language goes to their business partners, and also driving their visibility into all the terms and conditions, and ensuring that they don't miss out on their SLAs, or they don't miss out on those discounts or commercial terms that they have negotiated with their business partners. Moving next is the example is from a financial service company, and for them the bigger challenge was One was definitely to get a visibility of all the contracts, and at the same time, financial industry, because of I think it's a highly regulated industry. So also ensuring that their contracts have a lot of those clauses which are linked to your confidentiality, or let's say your business continuity planning or disaster recovery. So ensuring those all those clauses are as per the corporate policies, and in case any changes, then there are right level approvals which are taken. And again, they do a lot of this contracts which are, let's say, with your data center companies, or with, let's say, vendors who are providing them long-term outsourcing services. So also ensuring, in terms of, that any amendments which are happening, so having your view of prevailing terms and conditions at any point of time. And having the effective contract management system in place also helps you, with all your SOX audits, and at any point of time in the contract life cycle. So with this, what I'm going to do is the last slide shows more in terms of maybe you can visit this site and look at some white papers, and maybe you can have a reading maybe at your leisure time. So some of the white papers which talks about how you can leverage your technology to drive your productivity, helping you reduce your compliance and driving visibility. So with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end my presentation. I'd like to thank all of you for a patient hearing, and we'll open up for Q&A.
Thank you, Harsh.
Requesting everybody to raise their hands, or type your question to be addressed by all the presenters. Do we have any questions?
So there is a question from Mr. Batra.
Yes. Okay, then let me read out the questions for everyone. Now, we have a culture treating customer as king. Now, okay. Sorry, I think I'm missing this question. Okay, the question is about the contract execution is the biggest challenge. I certainly agree with that. How do we take care of monitoring the approval of with multiple agencies? Now, this is where it comes to optimizing the process, the chain. I agree with you. In some places, we need approval from one agencies, we need approval from another agencies. I mean, this is where it comes to complying with the guidelines. So, I mean, I don't think I have a standard answer for that. The only thing I can advise is to cut down your, the whole roadmap of approvals has to be reworked out. Now, another one is, okay, let me just. Now, Anil has made a when there are several contracts under management, how do we ensure and track the obligation management around? So this is where I think our solution, which Harsh has explained around, can answer it. Maybe I can give it to Harsh. Harsh, you could answer it, how you will manage it with your system?
Yeah, absolutely. I will answer that. So what our customers do is, so once the contracts are what you can do is on the contracts you can define your obligations. So as I said, it's one thing. If you have price review clause into the contract, so one can define a contract event around that, and one can define who is responsible for doing that, and also setting up reminders that that activity should be reflected in the workbench of the user. Similarly, what you can do is you can define all this different kind of contract events could be your, let's say, doing your contract performance review every quarter, right? So depending on the contract, one can one can define what are different obligations. The one good practice is to define obligations in the contract, so it also get defaulted as and when you negotiate a contract at the same time. And the system will ensure the right level of controls and notifications as and when these obligations are due to the one can also do a reporting respect to know in any of the obligations which are not completed on time, or if there are any exceptions which are noticed at the time of completing those obligations.
I think Harsh, your voice was breaking. I think I don't know whether.
I'm also hearing some echo.
Okay, let's try to answer from my side. Do you see my voice is clear? Now, one of the questions I. Okay, same. Shabd, can you take care of this from the organizer side?
Yes, sir. We are just worked on. Please go ahead.
Okay. Now let me see the questions we have. I mean, one was about the tracking the obligations part, which I think Harsh has tried to answer.
Is my voice better now? Maybe I can try to answer the question obligation.
Now it is better, Harsh. If you can, yeah.
Because I am still hearing it's can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So let me maybe just repeat shortly on that question with respect to obligation management. So what we do is, and that's where technology can come very handy. So one is to define your contract template. I still, some of the people are saying they're not able to hear me. So Shabd, can you take care of that? Voice is echoing and people not able to hear me.
Yes, we have just done from here. In fact, we have taken care of the echo and the voice which is breaking over here.
So let me try once again.
Yeah, it's better. It's
Is it
better.
better now? Okay. So what I'm saying is that no, I think it's again echoing. Shabd.
Mr. Batraji, can you off your audio from there?
Okay, let's see. Yes, we are done.
Yes, Mr. Harsh.
Okay, so let me try again. So what I'm saying was, so it's still echoing. So I'm not, people are able to hear. Then I can go ahead.
Is
Shabda,
everyone
what?
able to hear us? Yeah, Harsh, we are able to hear you clearly.
Oh, Sahib,
there's
I'm
some
seeing.
problem in the network.
Yeah, because people are complaining about the echo because of network.
Yeah. Go ahead, go ahead. I think it.
Okay.
Like
Can
all
you
the
hear us?
audios are on, I can see.
Yes, yes, the audios are on.
Yes. So I am making my audio off for the time being. Raise the question, then I'll make it on.
Yes, you are pretty much clear, Mr. Batraju.
Harsh, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was answering the question on obligation management. So the best practice is to have your contract templates. Within your contract templates, you can define that what are the obligations you want to measure. So once you define those, once you initiate your drafting of contracts, so all these obligations can get defaulted. You can assign to each and every obligation know when it should be due and who are the users responsible for acting on those obligations, and the system will ensure that as and when those obligations are due, your task owners are notified, and in case there is a deviation or if people miss out on obligations, you have right level of reports which can be triggered to identify those missed obligations. And what happens is that the today tool also provide your good level of analytics, where one can look at what obligations are missed, and in case those missed obligation has a financial impact, or let's say impact on your discount levels, so those kind of reports or analytics can also be generated from the tools. So there is one more question, no, which is that do IBM provide input on global database or knowledge on various legal and cultural aspects? So I would say no, with respect to your the legal language and your cultural aspects. So this is something I would say is not our domain. We have partners, which are specialized legal firms who have experience of working in different countries. So if you need guidance with respect to, let's say that, what should be those statutory clauses, or maybe some inputs on the legal clauses with respect to your different regions, so we can help you connect to those specialized legal companies.
Harsh, this is very, I mean, each individual company has its own experience and they build up their own terms and conditions based on their past problems around. If you're dealing with the public sector, they have their own. If you go to the private sector, I know one company, I was working in the south, they look at their own experience and based on that, their legal officer build their own terms and conditions. They have their own boilerplates. So it's all internal, you're right. One question I think Mr. Desai has raised around is, again, the cultural aspects around, because one is raised around is the flexibility part. I agree with you. In our countries, most of the contracts, when we walk through from one end to another end, frequent changes happen. And these changes could happen because either we have not spelled out our requirements very clearly, the whole contract was cooked very halfway, somebody just went ahead fast, but without undergoing the minute details around. So the changes happen from the customer side, changes also happen from the supplier side. So this is the problem which we have around. While I know the Japanese example which Mr. Desai was quoting around, they're very rigid, the designs are very firm, and supplier has to comply. And there the compliance may be more than 99%, as he was mentioning around in his question. I think it's a question of maturity. I think in our legal system, so far we always take very lightly. Sometime we want to rush through. The whole homework has not been done. Certainly in those situations, too many changes happen around. So we need a system. So that system which can take care of all these changes in a frequent basis around. I think we need much more smarter system than the Japanese around, because in our cases changes are too fast.
Okay, do we have any more questions from the participation?
So I'm seeing one question that says work completion as per the work order. And so I'm understanding that the question that has been put is how to ensure that at the time of completing the work orders, the statutory compliance has been taken care of. And this is something, no, what we hear, no, especially when you are hiring your contingent labor or manpower, and especially, in India, we have your regulations before you make payments to your service vendors. So you have to make sure that they have been paying your PF to the employees, no, or they have taken insurance for the employees and they're treating them fairly. So these are different regulations. What you can do is, as part of your work orders, you can set up those process workflows and put your checks and balances, where one can see if this statutory compliance have not been completed. No, you don't release the payment to the vendors. So today systems are flexible to define those business workflows and controls to take care of these kind of compliance. So the other question is that
Okay, there is one more question.
yeah, so this is a cloud-based software. Yeah, so the contract management application, what we offer is both on cloud as well as on premises, and it depends upon the customer, how they want to deploy this. And this application, it can also be integrated with the ERP packages, and that's something, if you have to really derive benefits, so you have to integrate with your ERP or transactional systems to ensure that what you are negotiating it also flows into those ERP system for transactional compliance. So yeah, that's something no, we support, and we have customers who are using your SAP or Oracle or PeopleSoft kind of ERP, and we have done integration with that. Yeah,
Okay,
so
we have one more question.
to answer on that, yeah, so the technology is ERP agnostic, and so we have done integrations with SAP and BAN with our other customers.
Well, friends, any other questions?
Do you have more questions for us?
Okay, now on behalf of Conference Asia, thank you Mr. Batra from ISM India, Mr. Harsh Anand from IBM India, for joining us and sharing your valuable insight on contract management. And I'm sure the participants have gained valuable insights and inputs from this webinar. And also I take this opportunity to thanks all our participants for spending their valuable time today with us. And just a quick announcement, we have our next webinar will be on strategic sourcing coming next week on 20th of March. So it will be scheduled at same time 3 p.m. So let's thank you once again, and have a happy Holi and fabulous day. So with this okay, I think we have one more last question over here before I end up on this. What is the implementation time?
I would say, no, as I was talking about the journey, and no, I talk about different phases in the process maturity and applying advanced technologies. So it all depends, I would say, in terms of the size of organization, in terms of number of the contract templates we are talking of. So, but just to give a very ballpark figure, and this is going to be a wide range. This is something it can vary from your 3 months to 9 months. And as I said, it again depends in terms of that how many countries we are talking of, how many BUs we are talking of, how many contract templates we are talking of, how many integration points we are talking of. So it depends on that. And that's where we always propose a phased approach to the implementation, because today no one has got time to wait for 9 months. People want to see results and outcomes every 90 days. So, and that's where looking at your business priorities, we can work with you to prioritize your objectives and work out a roadmap where you see value every 3 months, right? So maybe to take an example, that today your visibility is a big pain, so you can just start with visibility, get it up and running 3 months, and then incorporate your approval controls and your boiler templates for more maturity.